Okay, so today we're trying another insane new format. Basically, I'm a booktuber now, and I also drew some inspiration from those TikTok Zoomer videos where there's multiple things going on at the same time. Someone's cutting some slime, and there's Subway Surfer going on. So I'm playing some SSX, or basically I did play SSX already, and that's what you're seeing at the top there. It's really fun, the game. I love that game. I might talk a little bit about it as well, but the main focus today is going to be on the 2023 reading challenge of Goodreads. Basically every year for, over 10 years, I think 12 years now. I think you can actually, let me see if I scroll. Oh no, it's all going worse than expected. Well, that's a bit of a spoiler right there. All right. Okay. All right. But yeah, so every year for, I think since 2012, so for 12 years, I've been doing a reading challenge where I give myself a goal to read a certain amount of books, and usually I fail at doing that. But this year I did. I read 30 books, and I want to just go quickly through the books I read, and some thoughts that I still have about them, what remains in my mind having read them throughout the year. Some of them I already talked about, and others I have not, but let's just start. You see, this is all of the books. I can scroll here. At the same time, you see the intro to SSX. So if you're bored, you can always look at one or the other. There's also my beautiful ghost face. Ghost face, not one, my face as a ghost. So the options are plenty. Actually, for the first half of the year, I only read one book. It was shaping up to be a bad year in terms of reading. And the book I read was, let me see, can I load this? Yeah, Earth for All, a survival guide for humanity. This is a book given out by the Club of Rome, famous for its it studied 50 years ago. The limit. Oh, it says it here. That's good. I don't even have to say it. The limits of growth, where they basically talked about the limits that the Earth has. Global warming, these kind of overfishing, things like that. I didn't read The Limits of Growth, but it became pretty famous either way. And now, 50 years later, they wrote this book called Earth for All, which basically it talks about the limits we have and then models certain policies, worldwide policies one could have to have a better outcome for humanity or a worse outcome for humanity. I thought it was a really good book. It's an easy read. It says they have two alternative scenarios: too little, too late, or the giant leap. So basically, what they're saying is right now we're doing the too little, too late. We're always a little bit too late. We're implementing policies to work against global warming, work against different other limits that we have on this earth. I don't remember all of the specifics anymore, but I do remember I enjoyed the book at the time, and I also really liked the giant leap scenario because they kind of talked about, well, these are policies we could do. They're not impossible to do. You could, we do have the resources, but we don't really have the political will definitely not on a global scale to implement them. So it was an interesting book, somewhat compared to a lot of other literature on environmental destruction or changes. It was a little bit more hopeful, I guess. So yeah, I did enjoy that one. I would suggest to read it. And like I said, this seemed to be shaping up to be the only book I read in the whole year until we went to Germany in, when was it? July, I think. So basically half a year in. And the first book, I kind of, I had I talked about this on this channel. I had kind of this crisis of I can't concentrate really anymore on things. I'm really addicted to a lot of social media. I'm addicted to YouTube still. That's still my one vice. Although I'm working on that one, and I'm kind of stealing your your time right now, unless you're enjoying it. Then maybe it's good for you, or you learn something, or you're thinking about stuff. But for me, it's become a bit of a habit that wasn't positive for my life anymore. And so I really wanted to go more analog. I wanted to read more books. And that's kind of culminated in that trip where I bought a few physical books. Often I read on the Kindle. And I also, the second book that I read in the year, and in German, it's called The Days at the, so it is in German, but it says it here, Days at the Morisaki Bookshop. Morisaki Shoten no Hibi. Oh, look, you can even see I have this add-on. I don't know, I'm using Safari, so it's not called an add-on. It's called, oh, Lord, everything terrible. Either way, let me see. Wait, did I just... it's okay. I don't know these people. I was just thinking, like, am I doxing someone? But no, it's fine. It's all better than expected. Yeah, so it is good actually. Like on Goodreads, you get so much information. Apparently, people didn't really like it, but I loved this book actually. It's kind of a slice of life thing. There's this woman who it starts off. Well, it's kind of the interesting part. She thinks she's dating someone, but actually, this guy is like, he meets her at a cafe, and he's like, "Hey, good news! I'm getting married." And she's like, "What? What?" And like she's very passive, and like she feels obviously really used, and like, she's just like, this plaything for him. But either way, like she falls into a deep depression, and to get out of it, her uncle, who owns a bookstore, invites her to live there, and kind of through the power of books and friendship, she recovers. And there's a lot of other interesting stories in there. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well written. Very, slice of life, kind of just the conflicts are not super deep, and but the characters were believably written, which is something that I really, especially in like a lot of Japanese books, popular books, the characters just seem completely unbelievable. They're not like what Japanese people are like, and they're not like what anyone else is like, and it's just like these kind of weird characters, and I didn't feel this here. I'm gonna throw another book under the bus. It's called Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Literally the worst thing. I started reading, I didn't finish it, so it's not gonna be on this list because it was so bad. The characters were disgustingly written. I don't know. Like there was this one person who like they're supposed to be like these are really smart people. So there's this one line where she quotes like 5 different languages. It's just like a dumb person's view of what a smart person is, in my opinion. As a dumb person is smart. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think that. But I hated the book. Trailing off a little bit. Yeah, but this book, Days at the Morisaki Bookshop, loved it. I'm actually reading it in Japanese right now. It's a fun read. I would suggest it to you if you want something relaxing to read. It's kind of nice. The Book of Fairy Tales, of Fairy and Folk Tales of Ireland by W.B. Yeats. I didn't. So the thing is, they didn't have the version I had, which was more of an abridged version. But it was interesting because I was in Ireland at the time, and I was reading like the fairy tales there. They're fun stories of. Well, usually they're not fun. Usually they're kind of like mischievous or negative for people, but they're like fun to read. And this is like a selection that famous poet and writer W.B. Yeats selected. He there was an interesting aspect because he didn't speak Irish, but he worked together with some people who did speak Irish, which was very kind of important in uncovering and tracing a lot of these stories. But yeah, it was a fun book. I enjoyed it. I didn't really know much about the the fairy stories in Ireland, even though it's a very important kind of cultural landmark, I think. So good book. The Last Wish is an anthology. Well, it's an anthology. I need to think about what an anthology is. I use words here. Well, it's a book of short stories and about Geralt the Witcher. You probably know him from either the Netflix series or the very, very, very good video game, especially the third one. I actually didn't play the first two, so that's not an endorsement of the first two, but the third one, excellent, really, really good. Oh, you see, I'm playing SSX there. Yeah. Sometimes I've been playing a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm good, but I'm kind of winning like most of these games here now, which is nice for me. And yeah, it's something good to look at. I'm not gonna. I think it turned out I'm not going to talk much about it, but I just yesterday night and like over the last couple of days in the evening I played that to relax, and so I just recorded some footage. It's something to look at, and you can once in a while you can see me failing really badly, so it should be fun. Yeah, the Last Witch is like the first in the Witcher series. It's pretty good. I mean, I don't remember everything so well. It's actually kind of in line with what the first season of The Witcher on Netflix showed. It was an interesting read. I mean, it didn't like super stay with me. I'm not sure if I did read already a second one or if it's just on my list, but I probably will read a little bit more. Not earth shattering. Really famous novel next. No Longer Human, Osamu Dazai. And I did already talk about this in a longer video. If I remember, I will link it, but I probably won't remember. I called it something else. Losing Humanity or something like that. I forget. But yeah, the book was very interesting to me. It's this time before the war in Japan, and it was interestingly written. I like books written around the time because they're kind of very introspective. The guy, pretty awful guy in a lot of ways, the main character. But I also thought it was interesting the biographical facts that are related to Osamu Dazai's life, because a lot of the things are quite similar. Like there's, I talked about this before, that there's double suicide in there. Well, there isn't in there, but like Osamu Dazai actually did attempt that, and so also that his father was like a influential political person that supported him. So there's like a lot of overlap there, but it's not exactly the same. Yeah, good book on the whole. It's not very long. Terrible female characters on the whole, but that is not uncommon in books of that time. And then, because of terrible female characters, instead, I read a book by That's not at all what I wanted. Did I like? I'm really doing like a lot of weird things. Really cool. You can see the source code. Okay, didn't dox myself again. That's good. By Yuko Tsushima, who is actually the daughter of Osamu Dazai, and also a famous author. Oh, did I read Of Dogs and Wolves first? 1 second. That's right. Ah, no, I skipped the whole line. Look, I'm an idiot. I'm a moron. I'm a full-on fool. Okay, well, let's go back. I'll talk about this later. But here's the first Yuko Tsushima book that I read. This book, probably the best book. Like that kind of like was the book of the year for me, I would say. It like incredibly moved me. Did I talk about it? Maybe I didn't talk about it because I was hyping myself up too much. I was like, I need to make this amazing video about it. Everyone needs to read this. This is the best book. I really loved it. It's hard to explain what the story is. Okay. Two friends often love but never lovers come together in creative partners in the world of video game design, where success brings them fame, joy, tragedy, duplicity, and ultimately a kind of immortality. That is a weird summary. Well, you know, but it is in broad strokes, right? It's interesting. It's like two childhood friends who bonded over video games coming together later again to make a video game together, and it's really much more about the characters, about their life and their story. There's some heavy stuff in there. There's some light and uplifting stuff in there. Yeah, the book. Oh, it was just so good. If you're just gonna read one book, why don't you read that one? There were a bunch of other good books that I read this year, but this one kind of moved me the most, and kind of is the one that also I think really ignited, like the rest of that I actually finished the 30 books this year is partly due to this book being so good, and I'm just like kind of getting hooked on reading again. The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Oseki. I talked about this as well, I think. This is a good book. I really liked her last book, which was called A Tale for the Time Being. That book was amazing. This book was not amazing. It was quite good. Like if in terms of where I would put it, quite good. Quite good, I would say. I had also a problem, which I did mention in my review of it. I think that I audiobooked this one. I ear read it, as I call that sometimes. And the reader made like these weird voices, mainly for the female characters, which just it was a bit hard to take. I kind of got used to it towards the end. The book is good. It's an interesting book about a kid who's struggling with certain mental health issues and a single mom, and then there's like a little bit of magical realism in it. It's good. It's an interesting book. I definitely recommend it. But if you haven't read it, read The Tale for the Time Being. Fucking amazing book. The Forest of Wool and Steel. So this is also like a real slice of life thing, but one that I didn't care for that much. Absolutely nothing happens in it, really. It's kind of like this guy who wants to become a piano tuner, and like there's some stories about him learning more about that and being very into his craft. And I mean, what he experienced that day wasn't life changing. It was life making. Okay, I mean, I don't know. This overselling it. It's kind of fun throwaway book, I guess. I wouldn't really recommend it. Like I said, nothing really happens in it. This book, very good. So this is what I was starting to say earlier. Yuko Tsushima, she's the daughter of Osamu Dazai. And this book, Child of Fortune, it's very interesting. It's set in like, I think I would say about the 70s. Yeah, late 70s of Japan, and it's about this woman who's kind of a little bit her life is it's not really falling apart, but it's going through certain changes, and you kind of like see her inner monologue about the things that like are expected of her, like what her relationship with her child. But also similar to Osamu Dazai, definitely influenced by her autobiography. The main character's father died early in her life, which is also what happened to Yuka Tsushima, obviously. So, yeah, this book I would suggest. This was a really good book. Child of Fortune. Really. I'm just going over trying to think of some things that I remember. Next book, excellent book. Sarah recommended this to me like years ago, and I put it off all the time. But this is also a next level book. It's kind of it's kind of interesting, having lived through a pandemic now. Not one as bad as the one depicted in this. It was interesting to see see like how she lays it out, and it kind of like jumps between before and after, and is kind of tied together through a specific characters who was a famous actor, and like kind of the people around in his life. It was really really well written book. I'm thinking of reading more by her for sure. Yeah, let me see what's important. Tells the story of a Hollywood star, his would-be savior, and a nomadic group of actors roaming. His would-be savior. I do not quite remember what that is referring to. But like these I guess I have a vague idea what it could be. But yeah, either way. So one thing I really like too is like they playing these traveling symphony and traveling shows, theater productions in the post-apocalyptic world, and like that was a very like an impressive kind of thought. It kind of actually inspired me. I wanted to make a little game focusing on this. I'm not sure if I will do that, but I really enjoyed that book. Let's see, how are we time-wise? Oh, no, we're fine. And we're already 1/3 through. Yuko Tsushima again, Of Dogs and Walls. Yeah, the two shorter stories. Like I think also her last stories, because she did die shortly after that. Dreams and fleeting shapes of our lives. It's interesting. So now let me see. Can I really remember? One story was also again about like a mother and her daughter, and the daughter wanting to buy an aquarium. And the other one was, what was it about? Oh, it was about the relationship with. Am I throwing them together now? But they're both again biographical. It's interesting because in one of them, like, there is a mentally handicapped brother. And he dies when she's like 15, and like kind of she talks a lot about him in it, and kind of the school he went to, and it's very artistically written, and the translation is really good. It's slowly coming back to me. You know how it is with books that you read a while ago. But yeah, that was a good one. It's relatively short. I kind of read like her first big book, and then her last book, and I want to read more by her. She's really good. Oh, then I started. That's a theme that will go through the rest of the year. I read all of the Sherlock Holmes books. Well, I read all of the Sherlock Holmes books except for the first one, because I had already read the first one. A Study in Scarlet, famous. I read that one already. But yeah, I started with The Sign of the Four. Oh, 4. Okay. I thought it was The Sign of the Four. And I audiobooked it. And I really, I mean, I might not say too much about each of these, because also like the stories they do blend together. You kind of, there's like definitely a pattern, and like some of them are interesting. I guess like if I were to be reminded of them, I think I would remember them. Like, you know, if I get like this one here, initially I was like, oh, what was The Sign of the Four again? You know? Oh wait, this is not in. Hey, why is this? I don't know what language this is. But yeah, like it kind of comes back to me that like this was about a conspiracy, and like the treasure that was trying to be looked for, and like there's this sub story where John Watson kind of finds his wife. It is John Watson, isn't it? It is, yeah. And okay. So what I really liked about all of these Sherlock Holmes novels is that you see like the culture of the time, which is very rigid, very like upper class focused in its writing, but it's kind of like water, right? Like fish in water. It's just there, and it's like, well, this is how it is. This is how it is. Always supposed to be, sort of. But from seeing it today, it's completely different. So like the female characters or whatever are they're not caricatures because they are like what the society thought women should be, and like obviously what women had to adhere to. And then, like, comparatively, Arthur Conan Doyle is a relatively progressive person. So it's just very interesting to see from our point of view what society was like and how artificial it is. And it kind of was like, well, what are the artificialities we have today? I think it kind of speaks to me because I have a very constructivist view of society and culture, and rather than like it being a given thing, I'm not very conservative in my views there, or anywhere really. I mean, you can see that in my political compass series. But yeah, so this is, I think, like the real value I had, and they're really fun kind of stories. You know, they're well written. Every mystery is kind of like, oh yeah, cool, okay. So I did like them. I think I won't be like talking too much about each single one of these. I'll just mention it going forward. But that was the value I derived from this. And I finished the whole. I read every book that every story about Sherlock Holmes that Arthur Conan Doyle published now. So that's kind of cool. The next one, another highlight. I think Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, Station 11, and this book, Piranesi. Or Piranesi. Oh, they were the massive highlights in terms of fiction for the year. How do you describe it? It's kind of like oh, this one's French too. Well, what am I adding to my to my Goodreads? Very funny. But yeah, so basically it's this guy who lives in a house, and the house is very, it's like an endless kind of house. And the description of the house is very interesting. It has like tides that come in and out of the rooms. It's every room is like the same size and has statues which are like kind of like Roman statues. And the guy he writes an in his notebook he writes a diary of things that he learns, and he's like this really interesting kind of naive, kind character, and you really kind of learn to care for him as a person, I think, and they kind of you uncover more about his history, about a little bit more about the house, about other characters. Initially, there's only one other character he calls the Other, and yeah, it's I don't want to talk too much, give away too much. A lot of people thought it was too slow at the start, but it really drew me in from the start. I was like, oh, I want to know more about this. It's one of the, like I said, one of the top 3 fiction books I read this year. The Empress of Salt and Fortune. This was, it was kind of interesting. I didn't really grab me initially. It's I guess it's young fiction, what do you call it? Young adult. Is that what I call it? Yeah. Sort of, and it's kind of like a bit of a fantasy thing. It has an interesting aspect to it because it's more about like the stories that are told. The framing is kind of there. There is this, you don't know that much about them in the first book, but there's like this order of people who try to find out and remember story or history, and she travels to a place where a big historical event that just happened after the empress died, and you kind of learn more about her early life and things like that. It's actually like it's grown on me now talking about it. Like at the time I was like, oh, I don't know, especially the start was kind of like, oh, this seems a little bit boring, but now that I talk about it, this actually had a lot to recommend itself. I enjoyed the uniqueness. It's a series. There's I think 4 books now. I might read the other one. And I did think I did already buy it on Kindle, but I didn't get to it yet. But yeah, so the thing is, because it's much more like a storytelling framing device, it's it's not like, it's not silly really, but it has some of these young adult tropes, but ultimately it's not really fighting based. It's very, yeah, I mean, it says it here, LGBT, queer, etc., which I think there's more of an effort to incorporate this, but it's done really well. And like in this book, it doesn't feel like tokenized or anything like that. So I enjoyed that. And like I said, it's growing on me more and more. Now I'm like, well, but actually, yeah, that had a lot of good parts. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes is the first collection of short stories. We can go in there. Let's see. Oh, and one is the Red-Headed League, the Blue Carbuncle, Speckled Band. Let me see. I think, man, even just hearing the titles, I can't quite remember. I'd have to be reminded like a little bit more. Oh, this is the story where, I don't know, it plays in the US, or this is the story where the monkey did it. I don't know, something like that. I mean, I guess that's just like you read like 100 stories, and they kind of like flow together. Then I finished the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. Let me see, is that actually where the final problem? Yeah, this is the first time where he dies, or apparently dies in his struggle with Moriarty, and then he gets brought back, and that kind of it changes a little bit. I think like Arthur Conan Doyle grew a little bit tired in some ways of the character, and but the stories are still really interesting. Tokyo Ueno Station. Oh, really good book. It's about the homeless or like specifically about one homeless man who lives in Ueno, near Ueno Station in Ueno Park, which is a gathering place for homeless. I think I reviewed this in a previous video. Really, really good book, written like kind of like his life mirrors that of the emperor, or like has parallels. Like obviously not in like the splendor, but kind of like, well, I guess in the opposite, really, like the pains that happen to him, and it very much humanizes people who struggle working as a lot of the homeless. I think I said that as well. Work as day laborers and things like that. So you kind of get a view of this, and yeah, good book. If you, it's not very long either. Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles, obviously a really famous story. It was interesting because it plays like in the moors, and it's kind of like more of a travel thing, and has, yeah, that was a good story. I think it's popular for a reason. Okay. The Anthropocene Reviewed. I like that. I think I talked about this one too. John Green, he did this podcast, The Anthropocene Reviewed, which is like reviewing from grandiose to mundane things in our current life. The Anthropocene being the age we live in now. I think I talked about. Did I know? Because recently there was a discussion about when the Anthropocene is going to be defined as starting, and I read an article about that, which was interesting. Maybe I should talk about this later if I remember it again. Because there were like a bunch of different ways you can view it, and pros and cons for when to set it. If you set it like in the 19th century, when like a lot of carbon. Oh, look, I lost my SSX. Oh, terrible. Carbon was started to be emitted, or when you people thinking, so maybe after the first nuclear bomb was dropped. Well, the first two, and these have like all political meaning as well, right? Like if you use the atomic bombs, that kind of draws the attention more to like America's actions. If you choose like more carbon things, it's more the industrial revolution, things like that. So that was interesting. And John Green, he writes really, really well, and like he kind of moves you with it. The one that I really loved was the one about this bird that is now extinct, and it's just a beautiful. It's a sad but beautiful story. Like how like the bird is recorded like one last time, the last of his kind. Very sad. Brings tears to your eyes, actually. Yeah, but then there's also like other ones. I think he reviews Dr. Pepper and thinks he's a big fan of that. So yeah, it was a good book. I really enjoyed that as well. I mean, I guess I mostly read good books. I usually when I don't like a book, I'll drop it. Or if the book doesn't sound like it will appeal to me, I won't even read it to begin with. So usually the books I read I do like. The Midnight Library, I also like that. I didn't really know whether I was going to like it, but it was actually really good. It's kind of the story of it's this woman who's very lost in life, and she does decide she wants to end her life, and in that moment she gets the opportunity to live different lives and basically see like different aspects of it. And it's well written, like it's set up, and like a lot of things that are troubling her are kind of discussed through living different lives. Like in one she is a rock star, in one she married her boyfriend, in one she moved together with her friend into Australia, etc., etc., etc. And it just all comes well together. It's an easy read. It was very popular. Yeah, winner of Best Fiction 2020. Well, Goodreads though. I wouldn't trust the Goodreads awards too much, but the book was good, so I definitely recommend that. Oh look, there's now the Midnight Library. Oh no, you can't see it. No, you can maybe. Okay, next one was Der Steppenwolf, a really famous book. I made a video about this one as well. It was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's another one of those books where it's kind of like introspective, and then it kind of also went crazy with like the dream sequences and stuff. I said my full ideas in there. I don't really I don't like the main character. Like he's unpleasant to me, but that's part of also why I think the book is good, because like he's just kind of like in this it kind of makes you think about it a little bit. I went to a book club for it, and some others were like, well, all the female characters are terrible, which is, well, I don't know if they're terrible, but they're like really used for, I mean, all the female characters, I think there's one. No, that's not right. There's a couple more, but they're like very much used for the story, and for the for the main character, I guess, which is like a very common feminist critique. Although maybe this is also kind of like pointed out in a way. So I mean, it's a good book. It's a very, very famous book. I enjoyed it on all. Let me see. I've been recording for 40 minutes. I mean, I'm just going to cut this up into parts. I should have. So there will have been a cut earlier, which I won't have narrated, but this one, I'm going to stop it here, and I'll see you in the next one. And that will be just me continuing to talk. All right, stay spoopy, friends. Hello, welcome back. Absolutely. For me, that was literally one sentence from the last one to this one. But yeah, I'm going to talk about the my 2020, what year is it? 2023 reading list. A little bit more. Der Steppenwolf. Okay. The Valley of Fear. That's a good one because it's like also US focused again. He really likes US stories. And then they kind of intersect with England in some way or another. But yeah, it's like, I think Pinkerton guy is basically infiltrating like a criminal organization, and yeah, it's that was a good one for sure. That book I enjoyed a lot. I said already in the last one. So if you're coming here for the first time, I I read all of the Sherlock Holmes stories this year, and I'm not going to talk too much about either of them because they kind of like they blend together. And The Beekeeper of Aleppo, I read that for a book club, and I was surprised how much I liked it. I talked about it also in a previous video. It's an interesting story about like the refugees, and it's very sad in a lot of way, a lot of suffering in it, but it kind of very humanizes people fleeing from countries and like having losing a lot, and why people would then do that, and how they integrate or have trouble also integrating into the countries that they flee to. So, and really, really good, interesting book. Mary Beard, How Do We Look? I also read that one for a book club, and it was good. It's basically just about different art, and there's like photos of it, and I think it's a companion piece to a TV show that she made. Oh yeah, show on PBS maybe. No, I don't remember. But it was interesting to see. But I'm not really sure what I remember. I think like it was like about how humans and about how gods are depicted in different cultures, and an alright book. This one I really liked. I wanted to make a video about this: The Disappearance of Rituals: A Topology of the Present by Byung-Chul Han. He's a professor in Germany, I think. He speaks German really well, and he's from Korea, obviously. And he has like these really interesting ideas always about like different rituals, and the way he talked, it's very complicatedly written, and like he kind of draws interesting connections. So I did enjoy it. Like he always kind of juxtaposes more traditional and ritual based societies, or like rituals, towards like neoliberal profit market based world, to a profit market based world, where he's like talking more about the traditionals are kind of like taking you out of this kind of view mindset, and like they may I should probably read some quotes, but they're kind of like an antithesis basically to what we now have in our societies. Avoiding sacred nostalgia for the rituals of the past. Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, this basically says, a community without cognition. Yeah. Okay, this is an interesting aspect. I mean, there's a lot of different things he focuses on, but like the community without communication is kind of where there's like you can be together and do things that everyone knows and they have meaning. And nowadays we're communicating all the time, but we're not really together in any meaningful manner, or there's no spaces for that left either. There's no rituals that make this. There were a bunch of good quotes, and if I make a video about that in more depth, I will definitely bring some quotes. Chip War, that was, you see, I haven't been reading that many nonfiction this year, but this one was a really good one. It kind of traces the history of microchips and how they were designed, how they were invented, what different countries were influential in them, and then also talks about like the more modern fight that China and the US basically fight over modern microchips. It's obviously in the news a lot lately. So the book like gave a lot of insights, and I would definitely recommend it. I think I might even have talked about it again in a video. Not 100% sure though. This one a friend of mine lent me. It's called The Medium is the Massage. Obviously very famous Marshall McLuhan. And the book was done really well, because it's like very sort of not interactive, but it kind of pushes the boundaries of what books usually do in the way it was designed, and kind of points out how
different aspects can be highlighted in the media. It's sort of, yeah, it sort of was incredibly far-sighted, I would say, for being written in the 60s. It basically like predicts a lot of internet communication kind of styles and how we're using media right now, how it is changing, how we're influenced by it. Yeah, during reading it, I was again like, oh man, he's talking about like TikTok or Instagram there, even though like he's talking about mass communication, things like television, or I mean maybe also radio to some degree. But here he says this, becoming gateways to the global village, and like to me, like now things really feel like we're hearing from across the world constantly different things. Obviously, the point he's making is still like this: it's really limited what is being seen, but it kind of becomes something that's so much closer together and can become like the time and space being condensed. So that was pretty good. Very good, actually. His Last Bow and The Casebook of Sherlock Holmes are the last two Sherlock Holmes novels. Well, not novels. They're both short story collections, and yeah, I enjoyed these. Well, let me see. Is there anything else? Looking back on the year, I feel like maybe I read a little bit too much fiction this time, and I should try to balance this a little bit more. I'm not sure if this is going to be a good kind of video, because like I'm not really going super in depth with any of these. I should that's kind of the thing. Like if you just go from off the top of your head, you can only say a couple of things, rather than if you can make some notes and think a little bit, you can maybe go a step further. So let me know if you liked it. I mean, if you watched it to this part, you might have. The ghost. I'm looking on the right, so it's like, oh, I'm not lecturing you. My eyes are closed, and I am blah 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 blah. I mean, the format is interesting. I like it. It's like very ADHD. But yeah, looking back, I might try to read a little bit more nonfiction this year. I'm definitely trying to read more Japanese novels. I didn't finish any novel in Japanese. That's something. I have a bunch of them that are like 50-60% done. I should just finish them, and I'd need more practice reading kanji anyway. So that's probably what I'm going to focus on for the first part of the year. Non-fiction and Japanese novels. So we'll see if that's how it works out. Otherwise, I think so. This will be a pretty short one, I guess. I really need to work on my my narrative. I want to actually make a video about that, like talking about how you narrativize your own stories, and how that's so important also for like your viewership to basically take on this point of view. The thing is, I don't really like it. I'm a bit conflicted about it. I really want like everyone to kind of think for themselves what they want, and like see like different points of views, rather than taking on just what is being said. But I can tell so much with YouTube, it's so important that you frame how you want something to be seen, if you want that, right? Like there's like these kind of touchstones that you can create for your audience and yourself to frame how things are being seen. I can just really tell that when you watch like a YouTuber, they have like these narratives that are in their mind, and if you can get people to buy into them, then that's basically how everything gets framed. Like, if you watch like financial YouTube, they have these specific narratives like, oh, this is like, we're trying to help, and we're doing this in like a tough but fair way. I mean, Gordon Ramsay is a great example of that too. Yeah, like people who watch him, people of fans of him, they know how his world is framed, and like it's kind of from seeing it from a different angle. It's like, well, why is this guy yelling so much? Can't he be politer? Like, why is he putting emphasis on this? Like, that's not that important. It's probably what you would see more as like a more generalized cultural basis. But because of the way that it's framed, you kind of get pulled into his point of view, or like the point of view that's created for it. And that's something that like is definitely important on YouTube. You kind of you really frame your own brand, I guess is what you would call it. I don't like that, but like your narrative, right? Like the way you're seen is very much by how you want to present yourself, like first and foremost. And then people lose that kind of hegemony over their image, potentially, or they might want to change it, and that might be difficult. It really depends. It's an interesting topic for sure. I want to think more about it, and also I'm definitely not good at it, or I'm not really doing it actively. Like I'm not even editing these, right? Like these are all stream of consciousness videos. Although, see, like saying this already is kind of like being like, see it my way. I'm making a stream of conscious video, and that's the value of it. It's interesting. I mean, yeah, and it's something that's on my mind. I definitely want to think a bit more about it. I guess like some of the books I was talking about, like the mediumism massage and the disappearance of rituals, kind of have overlap with these thoughts, but I need to get better at like actually clarifying them to myself, thoughts, and then communicating them in the way that I want. That's definitely something for year 2024 to achieve. What other videos am I going to make? Probably. So I'm gonna try to make maybe better book reviews. And I also want to make like one just looking forward to what I want to plan for 2024 and what I want to achieve. So I might make those next. And I think this one will be one of, well, they're relevant for you now because like it'll be 3 videos ago. But how the sausage is made kind of aspect. I'm going to put one of these before the political compass, and then probably some of them afterwards. Also, don't worry, we're going to go back to Minecraft videos soon enough. I want to play more. Maybe we'll also play some other videos and other video games. Might also play other videos. I kind of like the SSX thing in the background. It's kind of fun, even though I didn't focus at all on it. Let me see. Yeah, okay. I think that's it for today. If you haven't, you should subscribe. do that also retroactively and make me have said that in every single video. Whatever. I mean, I think people know. Either way, I see you guys in the next one, and well, stay spoopy, friends.